Learn how to read what the user types into the input box using the value property. In this lesson, when the user types a task and clicks the Add Task button, JavaScript will read the text and display it in an alert box. Now, if I click on this Add Task, this should display and showed me that I've clicked the button. You can see button clicked. Now, in this lesson, we want to look at how we can actually read user input. And what do I mean by user input? I am talking about what user will enter into this input field. This simply is just our input box. And an input box is just where users type information. For example, if I type my name, I have just added an input into this input box. So we want to see how JavaScript reads user input. And we are going to be doing that in the script section of our application. So we are going to be adding more code to our JavaScript code in order to implement how JavaScript reads user input inside an input box. Now, let's move into the script part of our code. We already have a function, we already have selection of our ID that corresponds to the ID set in our HTML element, and also add an event listener that detects click in our example, that detects click in our application. So now let's move on and let's look at what should happen when a user tries to input something into our input box. So let's go on, and inside this function that we already have, I am going to change this alert, and for now let me comment it out or remove it totally. Let me comment it out first, even though I'm going to remove it. So let's make a variable. Now let's say whatever a user enter is tag task. So let's say let task and make it a variable. And now let's now call what we already have as our variable in order to capture the value that is being entered into that input box. Now, if you come up here, you will see that we are already getting the ID of our input box with this method, and we are storing it inside this variable. So now let's now call on this variable task input, and then call on another thing called value. And once this value is captured, we just want a simple display alert and then show us whatever is input into the input box. So let's go ahead. Let me type my name. So a typical task will be, I want to visit the new marketplace. And I'll go ahead and click on Add Task. Now you can see that what we just entered inside that input box is displayed in the alert box. Visit the new marketplace. Now, what have we just completed here? If you look closely, we actually are still not adding tasks to the to-do list. But one thing we have done successfully is that we have been able to capture the user's input. So if I click OK, I'll come back here and write something else and say something like going for summer vacation. If I click Add Task again, you are going to see it. But you will notice that this actually is not being added for real. Because if this is to be added, you are probably going to be seeing this under our input box and the button as a listing item. But for now, it is actually not doing the real adding. It is instead being captured in our alert box. And what we are basically doing in this example, or what we are basically doing in this lesson, is to show how you can actually capture user input, how you can actually read user input, just by selecting the ID of our input box and then appending it with the value, we are able to actually capture whatever is being typed into now, whatever is being typed inside that input box. So the value property is just what lets JavaScript read what the user types into an input box. So this dot value is an inbuilt property into JavaScript. It's not something that we're just making on our own. So it's an input property that we just reach out for because we need it. And what it does is that it lets JavaScript read what the user types into an input box. So in this lesson, we use the input box. We use the value property rather to access whatever the user types. And after the add text button is clicked, JavaScript stores this text in a variable, which is this text variable, and display it using an alert. So this variable is what we pass to our alert, and then JavaScript will display it. So it's an important step because every to-do list app begins with an input. So if you want to have a list of to-dos, you usually will need a way to enter an input in order to itemize whatever it is that you want to do. So it's an important step, as you can see in this particular example. So successfully, we have been able to learn how you can actually read user input by using the value property that JavaScript provides. So let's look at a few key things from this lesson as takeaway. Number one, the value property reads the content of an input field. You can see that this value property is what helps us to be able to read the content of this input field. Number two, the input element and its value are different. Number three, variables can store user input just as we have it here. Let task is equal to task input dot value. This is our variable which is storing the user input. And number four, effect functions can access input value after a button click. You can see that what we have here is being captured inside the function of button click, which means that effect function can access input value after a button is clicked. And lastly, we have successfully captured user input and we are ready to display it in our to-do list app. So this is how you can actually capture user input using the value property JavaScript.